Hola, ¿cómo está? So I find myself still in the desert, and I've been here for 3 flippin' weeks. And eventually, the customer demanded that me and my cohort Jorge conduct a very extensive and at times dangerous test on the transformer into the drive because they were convinced that all their issues were because of the transformer and the drive itself. And whenever I kept mentioning the soft starter being in the system, nope, nope, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. It's not this. So we performed this test, having to wear moon suits and whatnot. It's a test that's done by the factory in a test setting, not in the field. And of course, it shows us that the transformer is fine. The issue's not the transformer. So finally, I'm able to convince the customer that we should go to their switchgear room. And I'm on the radio with the operators. It's the middle of the night, so they're not running their systems because this is a solar site. They don't run during the nighttime, and we can do testing. And I contact the operator, and I say to him, I says, right now, the soft starter is online for operation. So you should see switchgear blah, 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 closed. And the bypass switchgear blah, 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 open. What are you seeing on your HMI? And the guy goes, well, I see they're both open. And I fire back, they're not both open. One of them's closed, the other one's open. And the guy goes, yeah, but we never actually ever see the lights ever change. And I turn to the electrical engineer and I say into the radio, very interesting, please wait. And I'm waiting for the electrical engineer to respond, and he's just got this goofy look on his face. Like he's confused as to why this could be an issue. And I says to the gentleman, I downloaded the manual for this soft starter. This is not our equipment, so I'm not an expert on this. But Jorge and I have reviewed this manual. And for this particular device, it can handle digital inputs and digital outputs. And your settings should be set up hardware-wise on this board, the control board, so that it receives 2 digital inputs and it outputs 2 digital outputs. The digital outputs are to energize a contactor relay. That then tells whichever switchgear it's wired to close or open, depending on the state setting. Then it is supposed to see that, and then it outputs to your control system whether or not said item is open or closed. And the guy goes, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm confused as like he's not putting 2 and 2 together. I was like, well, your operator has just indicated that he is not seeing this. So I strongly suspect that this board is not configured correctly. That board is located behind that door and behind a metal plate. We need to open up that door and we need to look at them settings. And the guy goes, okay, go ahead. Sir, I'm not allowed to do that. What do you mean? I've been adamantly clear about this. This is not my equipment. This is your equipment. It's been commissioned by either you or somebody else. I am not allowed to open this up. I can only observe you open it up, and I highly recommend that you, for the love of God, open this up. But I can't do it. So he opens it up. And as soon as he's got that metal plate, I look down at that board, and every single jumper is set to not use. And I look to the customer, waiting for a reaction out of him. No reaction comes forward. And I say, do you notice anything wrong with these jumper settings? He goes, no. Your jumper settings are all set to not use. So this soft starter cannot in any way, shape, or form control the switchgear. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And finally I say, Would you like to know what these jumpers need to be set to and these other switches? And the guy goes, I don't see why we should have to change anything because we've been using a soft starter without any issue, and it's not until we installed your equipment that there is an issue. And I tell him, the way you're operating right now is your soft starter cannot control switchgear. When you think that you've opened up the switchgear feeding this, you have not. You have not. Have you ever stood in here and heard that big switchgear over there change state? He goes, I'm not sure. I go, what state do you think that switchgear is in right now? He goes, it should be open. It is closed. He gets on the radio, asks the operator what state it is. Operator goes, I don't know. It's always open. And the electrician goes, or the electrical engineer goes, see, it's open. And I practically have to drag him over. I'm like, do you see through that port window? What does that say there? It says in red, shut. Right. The switchgear is closed. He can't open or close it. I need you to change these jumpers. Turn off that breaker right there. That's the control power. Move these jumpers and switches the way I have it written down on this piece of paper. Guy goes, why? And I want to punch a wall. I want to punch a wall. I was like, because your system doesn't work. It was never commissioned right. So he turns off the breaker, changes, and he takes a picture of the way the jumpers and stuff work. I go, what are you doing? He goes, well, this way we could put it back if it doesn't work. I go, touche, fine. Puts it back the way it's supposed to be. Turns on control power. What happens? All of a sudden you hear a loud chunk. Switchgear incoming to the soft starter opens. And the bypass switchgear closes. And the guy starts chewing me out. He said, what just happened? I was like, you just changed the alignment. So he goes, it shouldn't have done that. I was like, I guarantee you the operator probably has the bypass switch set to bypass. And we get on the radio, and I ask him, what's the position of the switch? Hey, you're not going to believe this, but I'm like, just tell me what the position of the switch is. He goes, it's set to bypass. But I'm getting the feedback saying that the bypass is closed, and I've never seen that before. I go, excellent. I want you to take that switch and put it to normal, or soft start. And he takes it to soft start. Chunk, chunk. You hear the two loud switch gears. Hey, you're not going to believe this, but the lights changed. No shit. So did the switch gear. I turned to the electrical engineer, waiting for him to go, good job, good kudos. No, he's just looking at me like a gopher, totally confused. And he goes, should I put them back? I said, no, you shouldn't put them back. I get on the radio. I need you to put it back to bypass. And keep it on bypass. Don't touch anything. So he puts it to bypass. We hear switchgear change again. And the guy goes, are we good? I said, no, we're not good. I need to do some continuity checks. Me and Jorge will do that. I'll let you know when we're done. Because what do we find out? We find out that their switchgear isn't actually, they haven't adjusted the bars or anything correctly. So even though the system thinks that the feeder is fully open and the bypass is fully closed, well, the feeder switchgear is actually closed on 2 of the 3 phases, which totally explains all the fucking issues we've been having. So, of course, we've got to then adjust the mechanical bars and so on, and we got to do a couple of more tests. And finally, the guy goes, I said to him, we're done with the testing, or with the switchgear testing. Everything's working correctly. He goes, so should I put everything back? And I just grit my teeth. I'm like, no, sir, don't touch anything. Now we need to clear tags. We need to put 4160 onto the drive just to see if the DC buses rise up correctly. So we clear the tags. And the guy's adamant. He goes, we got to be able to use this soft starter. We got to be. And I'm like, you can use the. I'm like trying not to strangle him. He's like, yeah, you could use a soft starter because now your control system, now your hardwired control system is actually doing something. I didn't even ask him if he had the settings correct for the soft starter to successfully trip incoming power if it was wrong. I know it's not set correctly, but frankly, I don't give a shit at this point. On that image here, that's actually the DC bus. Climbs up perfectly. Does exactly what I expect it to do. It just sits there in diode mode. We sat there for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Let the transformer warm up nicely. No problems whatsoever. By this point, we're out of time. So they got to use a soft starter, of course. Switch over to the soft starter. Bring the system up. Everything's good to go. So we still haven't commissioned this fucking drive. I write back detailed reports to everybody back at home, explaining what the issue was. And again, this is the issue that I kind of explained in my previous video. Oh, how many freaking days ago that was. This morning rolls around. Jorge and I meet up in the lobby of the hotel to drive out there. And Jorge just basically holds out his hands. He goes, give me the car keys. I go, why? He goes, look, man, you've been here longer than I have. You and I both know this commissioning is going to go fine, smooth. Frankly, you need a break from this guy. You need a break from the site. Just do me a favor, brother. Just stay in a hotel. And it's where Jorge's not only a really good field engineer, he's a really good person because he can recognize just how just frustrated I've been over the last 3 weeks. He's only been here for like a week. But like, God bless him. And of course, in a single night, he gets everything tuned, ready to go. He calls me up in the middle of the night. I answer it because I'm thinking there might be another problem. He goes, no, there's no problem. He goes, but I need you to send me the paperwork for your hours so I can get them signed. I go, I can come and get them signed. He goes, don't come in and get them signed. I want you to make, flight arrangements and get where you got to go to next. I got this. Let me get it signed. Because Jorge's smart. I was kind of dreading this because basically what the guy was expecting to pay was for like, I want to say 3 12-hour days. And we cost them like $280 an hour. One guy, 3 days, 12-hour days. In reality now, I've been here for 3.5 weeks, charging them 14 hours a day. 7 days a week, and I've spent most of the time just standing there in the drive room arguing with this gentleman. And also keep in mind, you got to pay for Jorge separately. So the actual commissioning bill that this guy is about to eat, it's going to be massive. It's going to be massive. We're talking several factors of 10 above what he was expecting to pay, simply because the gentleman refused to listen to me. I love my job. I absolutely love my job. But when I get assignments like this, I feel like it takes years off my life. I've been miserable this whole job just because I have to flip my sleep by about 12 hours from back home because I got to work at night. And so I've been able to talk to my wife pretty much every day. I have been able to talk to my son. So I've been miserable about that. I like to try to talk to my wife and my son no matter where I am in the world, at least once a day. It calms me down. It makes me happy pappy. I know there are a lot of people out there that say, man, you're really Pete whipped. Hell yeah. Wife's my best friend. Son's my best friend. But like, this is a prime example of how you can't fix stupid. Like you can't save people from themselves. And this whole process would have been a lot smoother as if people in the home office would have listened to me and Jorge and put some pressure on this guy's management to get his collective head out of his ass. But the job is done, thank God. I'm going to go off to the next one. It should go smoother. It has to, really. This was probably the most stressful, frustrating gig, simple gig that I've ever done before. Because I've done major projects before that lasted like 1.5 years at a time. And at times those could be way more stressful, way more problems and all. This was so stupid simple. Again, I should have been able to do this in 3 days, easily 3 days. That includes pre-power checks and all the extra stuff. But no, um, all of this is because one board with a bunch of little plastic jumpers and little plastic switches were all in the wrong position, and I could not get this guy to listen to me. Hopefully he's not going to go back there and just put all the switches and stuff back, because if he does that, the whole system's going to break and he'll destroy the transformer for sure. But say, Lovey, I hope everyone's doing better. I'm doing better. I know I'm going to do better on the next job site. So everybody, please take care of each other. Ciao.